Today I have for you a whole bunch of ideas for using these alphabet moulds, and they will all be beginner friendly ideas and using materials that should be fairly easily for you to get hold of, and in fact you might already have in your craft kit. Many beginners will find these moulds a great place to start because you can use small amounts of resin, do lots of different techniques, great for learning with, so very beginner friendly indeed. And today I'm also going to pick up for you some common troubleshooting problems. I know people worry about bubbles, about the resin yellowing or it not curing properly, all sorts of things like that. So we'll pick those up as we go along and we'll go right through to where you actually assemble them to make them into keychains. First of all, let's have a look at some of the kits available. This is a starter kit with very funky shaped letters. They're rather lovely, aren't they? And you'll see in these starter kits you get all the bits you need to turn them actually into keyrings. Now, I'm not going to be using this one today because this is quite a funky font and I wanted to use this one because I think it'll be far easier for you to see what I'm actually doing. But just to show you, these little starter kits are actually rather good. They do come with everything you need to get you started. I'll put you links for all of these and in fact everything else I use down in the video description details below. You'll notice I've got two different moulds here. This one, the letters are they look the right way around to you and me, don't they? And this means that this is the top surface. So you're working in the direction that you're looking at it. Does that make sense? What I mean is you'll be putting what you want on the back in first and then building up and you'll end up with this as the top surface. Typically though, I think most people go for this one. So this is the one I'm actually going to be using. As you can see, this is a nice new one, still in the bag, and it's backwards. Therefore, what we're looking at here is the back, and what you put down first into the mould is the front. Let's get this out of the bag. And you'll see on the back, between the letters, there's little supports. Those are simply to stop the whole thing kind of sagging when you put your resin in it. So despite being quite cheap, these are actually quite well made moulds. Right, first things first then, let's get our PPE sorted. We're going to need gloves and we're going to need a respirator mask. Today we're going to be using epoxy resin. Now, a lot of these techniques I'm going to show you, you could actually use ultraviolet curing resin. And I do know that a lot of people start out with ultraviolet curing resin. But really today we're looking at epoxy for those wanting to get into epoxy resin. Now, the resin I'm using is Apex High Gloss. I find it really easy to use. It's a 1-to-1. Obviously, I only need a very small amount because these letters are small. So, yes, I'm just mixing up a small amount. And then the trick is to avoid bubbles in the first place, mix it slowly. I tend to mix a bit too fast. I'm a devil for it. But if you can mix nice and slowly like this, make sure you scrape right into the edges. Make sure you get all of your, get it all thoroughly mixed. And you're going to want to stir this probably for a couple of minutes. Make sure it's completely clear and there's no kind of stringy look to it. And then once it's stirred up well, I'm just going to let it sit for a moment and that will let the bubbles come out. This resin does degas very quickly, so it loosens its own bubbles out really nicely. So this is the glitter I'm going to be using. You can use any glitter that you happen to have kicking around in your craft room. Lovely, isn't it? Seems to have got a bit of a glitter collection going on, so it's always hard to choose, isn't it? So what we're going to be doing then is mixing this straight in to our resin. And I'm putting quite a lot in. So we can just stir it straight in, just like that, you see. Now, when I've finished this one, I'm going to show you a little trick to really make that glitter pop even more than it will. I think I've probably got too much here, so we'll do a couple of letters. If we've got enough. Now, little trick for you here, top tip. If you fill it right to the brim so that the surface tension's holding the surface completely flat or very slightly over even, you should be able to pour it so you get a slight dome to it, then that will prevent you from having a sharp edge. There we are. So that is just slightly up above the surface of the mould. It's just very slightly domed. Let's try for two different colours. We've got a nice white glitter here. So let's see if we can do two colours in one mould. I think that's going to be a popular thing to do myself, so let's do it. But then all we're going to do is pour this in at this end and it should push the blue glitter back. So we'll have a two-tone glitter. How's that then? There. Right, I've got a little tiny bit left of each, so I'm just going to chuck that into a spare mould. Always have spare moulds handy. I'm currently rather fond of these little butterflies. So we'll let that cure and we will demould them in. With this one, it's going to be a good few hours. It's a regular curing time sort of resin, so it's actually quite warm in my craft room today. So I'm thinking by sort of 10 hours, something like that, we should be able to demould it. You can get quicker curing epoxy resins, but I wanted to stick with one that's more of a... I think of it as a general all-purpose one, because if you're only going to buy one epoxy resin, because you're a beginner, I would suggest this is the one to go for, because you can use it for small pieces, quite large pieces. You can go up to a reasonable depth with it. So if you're making coasters, trinket trays, I make little plant pots with it, all that sort of thing. Small ornaments, anything like that. It's great for that. People often ask me what I use to clean up. These are Wonder Wipes. I buy them in big buckets from Amazon. They're awesome. And yeah, so I use so many of them. I've actually got them on a repeat order, so a bucket arrives every month. It's brilliant. Easiest way to do it, but they clean up everything so well. The moulds, I tend to use sticky tape to clean those. But these wipes do also work quite nicely on the moulds too. Right, I'll see you in a few hours. Let's get this cure. I promised you I'd show you a trick for making your colours or your glitter pop even more. Now, I've already done this one and forgot to press record. Muppet. But you can see how much more it's made the glitter sparkle. So I'll show you what I did using the back. And it's just top coating, and so you can use either ultraviolet curing resin or the resin you've already been using, or you could, as I'm doing here, use a quick cure coating resin called Apex Quantum, but you can just use the resin you've been using already, or your UV if you've got some of that. And literally all we're going to do is put a layer over the back, and the surface tension, if you don't put too much, the surface tension should hold it in place. So you're doming. If you've heard the term doming, this is what we mean. It is literally just putting a final coat over the top so that it domes and kind of magnifies the glitter and whatever else you've put underneath it. But the idea is that you top it up so that it domes up, but the surface tension prevents it from falling over the sides. You can also sand it lightly first if you want. That does help sometimes to give the top coat a surface to kind of key into. But you don't usually, if you've got a nice shiny mould, you don't need to be sanding. This is another question people keep asking in the Facebook groups that I'm part of, is about sanding your resin, when you need to, when you don't. Honestly, if you've got a nice shiny mould, you shouldn't need to be sanding it. I don't tend to sand and top coat unless there's something like a fault on the mould that's carried through onto my piece, or if I'm just wanting to make a surface ping like this. These are cured now, and as you can see, you've got this nice domed effect on both sides now. And that has really made the glitter pop even more. It just really magnifies anything that you've put inside your resin already, and yeah, gives it that extra sparkle. There we go. It's another one done for you. Okay, for our next technique then, we're going to do a bit of a colour fade, and I'm going to talk to you as well about some of the common problems we have with resin curing. I know for a lot of beginners, getting resin to cure properly can be a little bit tricky. So what I'm going to do here is a fade across with a colour of pigment and some clear. So for those of you who've been asking about colourants, I'm going to show you a couple of different ones. We're going to do the M and the N. So I'll put some clear in the top. And now we're going to mix in some colourant. This is when I want to pick up the problems that people often have with resin curing. Usually, if you haven't mixed it properly, that's the usual one. If you've got your ratios, this is a 1-to-1 resin, so equal amounts of each, nice and easy. That's often a problem, not having the ratios right or not having mixed it thoroughly. The next problem that very often beginners can encounter is putting too much colourant in. what I would suggest to you is put in as little colourant as you can get away with to get the colour that you want. I'll probably get away with a bit more than that. Now that is a liquid resin dye. You can also use alcohol inks in a similar way. Now the problem you've got is that if you put too much in, it will actually inhibit the curing, because effectively you're diluting the resin, aren't you? So let's see if I can get away with that. Should be able to. I've heard that a number of 5% banded around, that you can use up to 5% before it stops it curing. I don't know how accurate that is. What I tend to do is just use as little as I can to get the colour that I want and hope for the best. Now all we're going to do to get this to fade across is pour it in the bottom. Like so. Might need a bit more clear. Don't think I mixed quite enough resin to do both of these, but never mind. We can soon top that up. There we are. Now what will happen is that should actually just fade across. If it doesn't immediately start to fade across, then just get your stick. I'm just putting a little bit more clear in, just topping that up a bit there. Just get your stirring stick and encourage it a little bit. But you very often find that resin just does. Colours just go where they want to go and they will blend. But hopefully, doing it like this, we should get that bit of a blend. Then we just leave that to cure. Now this is a different sort of pigment. This is a paste one. Now obviously people use mica powders and all sorts, so we'll come on to those later. But this is a paste pigment. Now because it's very heavily pigmented, more than the liquids usually are in the little bottles, you only need a tiny bit. Did you see how little there was on my stick there? And that is almost completely opaque. Isn't that lovely? This one's called Hummingbird and it's from Create and Bloom. The other pigment, by the way, the liquid one, was from Let's Resin. Their colourants are very, very good as well. Do have a look in the video description, because wherever I've got a discount code, I will put that down in the video description for you. Could do with a bit more clear, couldn't I, here? Not sure, actually. Carry on filling it up. It's up to you. I mean, the design's your design, isn't it? So you do it how you want. And again, I'm just going to blend those over. The colours might stay nice and separate like that, but what I'm looking for this particular make is a blend. So I'm just going to get a little micro brush, pull the colour back. Might tip a bit more clear into the top as well, actually. Yeah, I think I've put a bit too much of the colour, so let's have a little bit more clear. And I think just because I want to get more of a fade on that, I don't think I've faded enough. I'm going to put a bit more clear into the next one, and we'll do another. I think what I'm going to end up with that one is it's going to be more transparent at the top, but it isn't fading out completely like this one is. So let's try that again. This time I'll do a lot more colour, a lot more clear and a lot less colour. And I think it's because the pigment pastes are crazy intense. Now this is something else, coming back to the bubble topic. This is something I wanted to point out to you. A good quality resin, particularly a less viscous one, you know, runnier, will degas on its own. What you can do, if you get any stuck around the edges though, you can get a little stick, like one of these little micro brushes, just gently poke around inside to release the bubbles. You know, if there's any trapped in the edges. And the reason I suggest something like a micro brush is because they've got little fluffy ends. You're not going to scratch your mould, because bear in mind, moulds, silicon's quite delicate, and it can scratch so easily, and everything you then make thereafter will have that mark in it. Let's see, that'll blend better. Yeah, a bit less of the colour. You see what I mean? That the green is, the pigment paste is so very heavily pigmented. It took over a bit too much in that one. So you only need the tiniest little bit. So if you want a really stronger colour, it's worth looking at the pigment pastes rather than the liquids. But I think the liquids probably give you a bit more control because they're not as strong. And again, even the liquids vary and the pastes vary within themselves, depending on brand. I tend to use proper brands rather than sort of cheap generic ones. I find them actually in the long run to be better value because the colours are more intense. They don't fade, as a lot of the cheap ones do. And you actually end up with better results and therefore less wastage because less things go wrong. And that's years of experience speaking there. So do consider. It also, when I was learning, I found I was using cheaper materials. And because things kept going wrong, I started convincing myself I couldn't do it. It was quite soul destroying. And then I realised actually, for once, it wasn't me. It actually was the materials I was using. Right, so that's our colour fade. We're just going to let those cure. Back to the topic of bubbles, people ask about using torches and spraying alcohol. Well, first of all, if you spray alcohol on your moulds, if you do it a lot, it's going to dry the silicone out eventually, so it's not great for your moulds. I still do it sometimes. The other thing that people sometimes use is a blowtorch. Now, you've got to really know what you're doing with one of those. I've got one, I do use it sometimes. But this is what we tend to recommend instead. I mean, I find this resin degasses itself anyway. You can probably see the bubbles are nearly gone already. But these things are good. One of these kitchen lighter things, just run it across the surface. And any bubbles that are sitting up on your surface just disappear. So that is what I would suggest. Like I said, I have got a crazy blowtorch as well somewhere. I do use it, but you're quite likely to cause a flash cure or damage your mould with that. So I would, particularly for beginners, I would avoid those. Okay, let's demould these. So we've got our colour fade using the liquid dyes. And we have got our colour fade that didn't fade so well because I used too much of the opaque pigment. But it's still pretty anyway. And we've got, this one should be better. This is the one I did using less. So it's got like a cloudy effect and fades through. So those are the two more successful ones. Now you can blend that as much as you want or as little as you want, but that is how you would get like a two colour mix effect in your pieces. Right, put these to one side and we'll start on the next one. So our next one then is using gilding flakes. I'm sure you've seen these. These are the luxury gilding flakes from Spectrum Noir, and I'm just expecting them to go everywhere when I take the lid off. So I've left some of the card on, but look how shiny those are. So they're basically a gilding foil, just in flake form. I'm going to show you two different ways of doing this as well. So there's two different ways I'm going to do these. One, I'm going to start with just a clear piece, and then we'll use the gilding flakes on it. And the other one, I will mix the gilding flakes in the resin to start with. So this one here is going to be the one that we put the gilding flakes on after. And the E, we'll put them in now. So this is, they will go everywhere. This is going to end up all over my mould. I just know it is. I'm just going to put some into my resin. Particularly love this colour. The pot's going down fast. This is where I usually end up gilding myself. So I've done quite well so far. And we're just going to pour it straight in. And this will give you a very different effect to what we're going to do with the first one. So, time to let these cure again. Again, just topping it up to just above the surface of the silicone. Oh, that was a good guess. Hey, I'm good. I'll see you when these are cured. Okay, let's demould our one that's got the foil in it. As you can see, foil doesn't tend to sink like glitter does. So, it's all through it. That's nice, isn't it? Oh, it's still a little bit bendy. There we are. So that's one effect. Rather nice, eh? Now the clear one, I'm just going to show you how you can put foils onto the surface. Now, of course, you could have coloured your resin. I'm keeping it clear. It's just so we can be nice and simple, and I can show you how you do it. Now the clear one, I'm just going to show you how you can put foils onto the surface. Now, so what happens is it dries all clear and it's still tacky. It just stays tacky. So it means that you can just lay your foil or your glitter or whatever down straight onto the surface of the piece. And then if you want to, you can top coat over it. It holds it pretty solid, so you might find you don't need to. I do tend to top coat over it just to make sure it can't possibly scratch off. But it depends what kind of make you're doing, I suppose. Isn't it? So there we go. You can go down the sides and everything as well. If you could go all, you know what I mean, all round if you wanted to. That's up to you. My little lid on. There we are. Right, just going to give that a few minutes to dry. Doesn't take long. So as you can see, this has gone, it's gone clear now. So what we're going to do is take our foil, and you can see this is a gold one. So you want the silver side down, and we're going to go like this. And it should lift off the gold, she says, hopefully. Looking promising. There we go. Look at that. Isn't that a nice effect? Now, of course, you can top coat over that. And I mentioned that you could do it with ultraviolet curing resin. I know this video is all about the epoxy, but just because I thought people might want to see it done with ultraviolet curing resin, I've got some Apex ultraviolet curing resin here, and we'll do it. Same process. Just make sure you're up to the edges. I tend to use the nozzle of the bottle but to manoeuvre it, but you can, of course, just get a little toothpick and push it around, or, you know, micro brush, whatever you want to use. So I tend to use the nozzle of the bottle just because I kind of can. And then we cure it. I'll be using this big lamp because that'll cover the whole thing. I'm going to put it on 3 minutes just to make sure it's well cured. Okay, done. And there we go. Isn't that lovely? So there you go. You've got 2 different ways to use foil in resin. You can do that with the flakes as well, by the way. No problem. Just sprinkle them on and brush them over, and then dust off the excess. You'll get a nice effect like that too. So there's those 2. And the next ones, I've got some dried flowers. Now these are real dried flowers that have been dyed. These, you can snip them down into smaller pieces, but these are just like solid little flower heads. So I thought we'd do maybe a couple of those. First thing I always do when I'm putting inclusions like flowers or little charms or anything actually into the resin is lay down a layer of clear first and just let that cure. So that's our first step. Now the reason I do this is so that you've already got a clear coat between what you're putting in and the air. So just mixed up a little bit of resin, and I just want enough to cover it without it, you know, pulling away from the silicone and not coating. Might have a bit much there, a bit too much actually. Let's see. Let's encourage it around a little bit gently, trying not to scratch the mould, of course. But yeah, so it's just a first layer, that's all, so that your pieces are sealed in. That's the idea. So as soon as these are cured, I will be back with you and I will show you what we're going to do with the flowers first. Okay, the resin's firmed up. It isn't fully cured, but it's firmed up enough for me to do what I want to do. It's at the cured but not cured but sticky, but yeah, the flowers aren't going to sink into it. It's at that sort of stage, if that makes sense. Obviously, you can wait until it's fully cured. I'm just being impatient as usual. And I'm going to get out some of the little flowers. And like I said, they're dyed. The colour on one side is better than the other. Now, we're working face down, so we're going to put them face down like so. As you can see, because the resin's part cured now, they're not going to sink. Oops. Oh, both sides of that one are coloured. Huh. So I'm just tapping them down onto the surface. Little tweezers are a godsend when you're doing this sort of thing. Oops. Okay, so there's our little flowers. Press them gently onto the surface of the resin, as it is still sticky. If it wasn't, I'd have just put a little dot of resin in there, just to give it something to hold them down. Now I fancy colouring the resin that's going on the back, so let's get the other one done so that I can get my gloves on and do so. And this time we're going to go for some lighter coloured ones. Now you'll see this one hasn't been dyed. I think this is the natural colour of the flower. And you can put a whole one in like that, or you may be able to see that there are actually lots of tiny little flowers. So you can trim them down if you want to. And I'm going to cut one in half. There we go. And you end up with loads of little bits that have just gone everywhere. So I'm going to put them around in there like this. Let's have a little bit of this very pale blue. You might be able to see the separate little flowers easier. This colour, in fact. You see, it's actually lots of tiny little flowers. Let's see if I can cut this right over it this time so it's the bits fall in. There we are. Okay, so what you could do then is put some leafy bits behind it, or, you know, whatever little bits you've got, really. But now I'm going to put the coloured resin on the back. It's gloves time. Right, so I've got 2 small pots of resin mixed up here, and I'm going to put some colour in them. First, I'm going to put behind this one, I'm going to put Super Sparkle White. Look how sparkly that is. Again, there'll be links to get this if you want some down in the video description too. But this will create a very, very pale sparkly. This is the 200 mesh Super Sparkle White. I've got an 80 mesh as well, which is more like a glitter, but this 200 mesh creates more like a very sparkly, pale mica powder. Can you see it flying around in the air? So we're going to chuck that one in. Probably will have a bit too much left again, so we'll have that at the ready. We're going to just chuck that in behind this one, because I used quite dark colour flowers there, didn't I? So that should set them off nicely. So just filling it up to the top again. And let's pour out what we've got left into a little butterfly. And the other one, because it's very light coloured, I'm going to look for a very dark colour to go behind it. Right, I'm going to go for Sea Star. This is a very dark pigment paste, but it is transparent. And as you can see, I've not opened it yet. How exciting is this? We're opening a new one. It's a very deep purple. Oh, I thought it was going to be blue. Very nice indeed. So, stirry stick. Let's give it a stir. Pigments do often settle if they've been stood for a little while. So you always want to give them a stir, or if it's the liquidy ones in a bottle, give them a good shake. And again, I'm going to want the tiniest bit on the stick just to see what that does, because we've got a very small pot. Oh, look at that colour. I've got a new favourite colour. Although this is a transparent one, I've put so much colour in, that's going to be nearly opaque, isn't it? Nice. Straight in behind our little, I call them firework flowers. They do look like firework flowers, or snowflakes or something, don't they? So we're just going to fill that up. And again, any little bit I've got left over will go into a little butterfly. Right, I'll see you for the demoulding of these then. A few hours now, just need to let them cure properly. So I will see you later. There we go. Isn't that cute? And as you can see, I've got a little bit of overspill there. One of the questions I keep getting asked is how to get rid of the overspill. And it's as simple as that. You can use a deburring tool while it's still soft, or scissors or cuticle cutters to get rid of it if it's hardened, and then just a little bit of a nail file. Yeah, that's rather cute, isn't it? Let's see what the dark coloured ones come out like. Right, on to the next, and we're going to be just mixing a bit of mica powder, lovely pale pearly green, in with some resin, and we're going to fill up a couple of these, because what we're going to be doing next is sticking things on them. So we're going to go for stickers, we're going to look at some nail art embellishments, and I'll show you a great way of sticking them on, and yeah, really easy way to make something look quite impressive. Okay, so we've got our pretty minty green in, just going to let it cure, and then I'll see you to do the sticking things on bit. So we've got our 2 finished little green pieces. All I need to do now is embellish them. So what I'm going to be using is, well, a sticker, and I've got this little cheap one with poppies on it, and we're going to be using some nail art bits and bobs. So let's look at the sticker first. Now, these are a devil to get the backs off. So what I tend to do is I've got a very small strong grip mat that was from my Cricut Joy that I don't use so much now, to be honest, but it's a smashing little machine. And what I find is if I stick it down on there, it'll just pull the backing off really easy, because they're a pain otherwise to get the backs off. So let's put that on the R, because we've got a nice straight piece on there. And we're just going to stick it straight on, like so. Press it down firmly to get the bubbles out from underneath. If you've got a scrapey thing, I'm just going to use the side of one of my stirring sticks. And that's really good for getting rid of the bubbles too. And do pay attention to the edges, because it's quite hard to get rid of the edges on stickers. You know, where to hide them in your resin. Now, the easiest way to then trim it off is to turn it over and just take a little sharp knife like that. I am on a proper little cutting mat here. Just trim away the surplus of your sticker. Watch your fingers, obviously. And there we are. Just going to do a little bit of tidying because that bit was very awkward, which you can do by going round like this. And then, of course, as you're probably expecting, we're going to top coat over it because that'll just seal it in and give it a really nice finish. Easy peasy. Ultraviolet curing resin. My current favourite ultraviolet lamp. I'll bring that in ready. Same process as we've done before. Here we go, but we're just top coating over again. If you're not confident to do it straight out of the bottle like this, then simply put some onto a little mat next to you, or in a little jar top or something like that, and spoon it out with a cocktail stick, or just put a dollop in the middle and spread it out with a cocktail stick or toothpick, whatever you want to call them, or any pointy thing. There. So that should do it. Just make sure you've got right up to the edges all round, and away we go. We're just going to get the UV lamp in. Give that 3 minutes just to be on the safe side. It's a powerful little lamp, this one. If you've got nail art lamps, use those. And there we go. We have a sticker. And the finishing coat has dried just lovely. With this S, we're going to actually just stick things on it. And what I'm going to do is spread it all over. I've already plonked one little flower before I remember to do this. So I'm going to spread it all over, just a very thin coat, because it will also create a nice clear top coat. And then these little tiny nail art pieces we'll just be placing into the resin. Now that makes sure that they're going to be stuck really, really well, doesn't it? You can imagine these are going nowhere because they're not just glued on, they are actually effectively in the resin. As you can see, I've got some little butterflies as well. There's an awful lot of nail art stuff that you can use with your resin. Now, as you can see, these are sticking up out of the resin a little bit because they are 3D, which means they're going to catch on things. And so that's why I like to put them into the resin like this, rather than just, glue them on. Right, curing this now. And there we go, as simple as that. And those should be stuck pretty darn firmly, because that's a proper domed coat of the resin that I've stuck them into. There we go, there's another method for you. Right, on to the next. We're going to look at 2 different ways to use acrylic marker pens in your resin. And if you remember, I filled up a couple of blanks ready so that we could do something with them. So I'm going to use one of those. The first method with our acrylic pens is drawing straight onto it. This is barely half full. And we need to give our acrylic pens, these are the ones from Let's Resin, they're really good, really strong colours. So give them a good shake first. And then we're just going to draw whatever we want onto it. And I'm just going to go for some random blocks of colour. So it'll look a bit like sort of scribbles. That's the idea. Random colours, very random colours. Let's go, what's this one? It's a beigey colour. And these pens have got, you see, they've got a brush tip at one end and a little fat tip at the other end, which makes them really easy to work with because you've got choices. Look how solid they go. I never used to believe that acrylic pens or paints would even work on resin because of it being a shiny surface. But they do. Mad, isn't it? Now for the last one, when we get onto that, what colour do I want? Let's go for white. For the last one, what I'm going to do is actually make, I don't think I'm going to use this one, so I'll actually make a blank and we'll just draw straight onto the surface of the last one. So I'll get some more resin in one of these shortly. I'm going to let those, actually I'll do that now. I'm going to let those colours dry before I try to go in with a white. Right, resin mixing time again. So we're going to mix this pale pearly lilac in, and then we're going to draw things on it afterwards. I don't know what yet. Maybe little flowers or something. But, this is called Lilac Lullaby, and it's from Create and Bloom. And it's just the most beautiful mica powder. It mixes in really, really easily as well. So making sure I've mixed it up well. I think I'm going to have a bit left over, so I might be making butterflies again in a minute. Do you have a pea? Because that'll be well out of the way while I'm doing the other things. Oop. There we are. So we'll let that one cure up so I can play with it afterwards. Then I need to find my little butterfly mould because I have got some left over. I do use these little butterflies. I stick them on things. They become embellishments in their own right. And also they make nice little gift when I'm sending things out to customers. Anything that I make with the little leftovers, the nicest ones, only the nicest ones, become little gifts. Okay, so we'll let those cure. Back over to our letter L. And I'm going to go in with some white. There's a nice pale orange here that might go nice with that. So all I'm doing now is going around with the second coat just to make sure that our colour is nice and solid. Don't forget, I've got links for a lot of the stuff that I'm using in this video down in the video description for you. So if you click just below the video and click on where it says more, the other useful thing you'll find, as well as just the links, is that if I've got a discount code, there'll be a link for that as well. And quite a lot of the stuff that I'm using in this video, I have in fact got a discount code that you can use. So go grab that. So what I'm going to do with that one is let that dry and then chuck some resin in on the back. But I do need to let it dry properly first. So while that's drying, I'm just mixing up. I've decided to go for a pale yellow. Don't ask me why. I just have. And this is called, what's it called? I think it's called pale yellow. Pale lemon. There we go. Another one from Create and Bloom. And it's a pigment paste, so you only need a tiny bit. I'll just use what's left on my stick. Bits of this will show through the gaps. I'm sure they will. Okay, I think that's dry now. So just going to drizzle it into the back. Again, I've mixed up a bit more than I needed, so I will chuck some into another letter. Oh yeah, I made way too much. Look, there's enough to fill another letter. I'm usually quite good at guesstimating amounts, but never mind. All we do now is wait for this lot to cure, so I'll see you later when they are, proper solidly cured, and we'll play with the pens again. See you later. Okay, these are all cured. I've just started demoulding the random letters that I did as extras to draw onto. The yellow one might be rather handy because keep picking purple when you've got a purple mat's probably not a good plan, is it? But let's see what this one's come out like. There we go. It's worked. Look at that. That's just acrylic pens. Isn't that amazing? So that's that one. And we're going to try drawing straight onto these. Same acrylic markers. Let's give it a go. What we're going to do is little pink daisies. I probably should have done this in white, shouldn't I? So this would show up better. White resin, I mean. Right, that dry. Shall we have forget-me-nots on this other one? So I'm going to use a bright yellow and blue. Let's go with this blue. I'm going to do the P, I think. Just letting that dry so that I can put the other colour in the middle. Oh no, these are going to need to be smaller, aren't they? Because they're forget-me-nots. Let's go for the flat end anyway. Big brush tip end. Easy way to do little flowers, by the way, is just put 5 dots in a ring and then put a centre in. And does that? Yeah, that's dried already. So we'll put the bright orange centre in those. And we want little yellow centres in these. You can actually see this one better, can't you? On the purple. Should we have some little leaves as well? This is a big colour set, as you can see. So we've got plenty of choices. I'm not quite as happy with this one, but never mind. It's only to show you the principle anyway, and that you can use acrylic markers on the surface. There we are. Right, we can let those dry thoroughly and then just UV top coat them. Or we could use epoxy, as with the other ones. You use whichever you're more comfortable working with. So there we go. Just going to let them dry and then we'll have a look at them at the end. Next thing we're going to do, of course, is make them actually into keychains. So I will, once these are cured, I will reconvene to somewhere a bit of a cleaner workspace and we will get that done. So here we've got a lot of letters. So hopefully this has given you loads of ideas for different things to do with these keychain sets. Now, what we're going to do is put the little chains on them. Now, these are the ones that came with the kit. They're pretty straightforward. And as you can probably see, they've got the jump ring on the end already. So all we need is a little screw put into one of these. They do come with some smaller chain links as well in case you need them. But first we need a screw. And with the kit came these. They are just little, I call them eye screws. Is that what they're really called? I don't know. They're little loops anyway. So all we're going to do is take a little mini drill, and I've got this one. This is from Amazon. Wasn't expensive. I find you need it on the highest setting with a small drill bit in it. And we're just going to go straight into the top. Now watch your fingers, obviously. It drills quite easily. That should be more than enough. Let's put our little drill away. Obviously it throws bits of dust and stuff up, and so a dust mask and some safety glasses is probably a good idea. Now, as you can see, that fits straight in rather too easily. Now, what you could do is screw it in. You could use a smaller drill bit, whatever. However, my cheaty way of doing it is, so I'm just going to take the tiniest little dot of UV curing resin. And this is the 5-second fast cure one. And then I'm going to get my little screw hook. I'm going to pop him in, straighten him up, and then we're just going to cure it. And this is just a little UV torch. It's a USB rechargeable one. You just pull the end off and there's a USB in there to recharge it. And this glue cures in 5 seconds under a UV torch. You could use your normal ultraviolet curing resin, of course, or E6000 or any other strong glue, just to make sure that that is going nowhere. And of course, if I'd made the hole slightly smaller, I could have got some pliers and screwed it in as well, which would have made it very strong. But there we go, that's done. Let's just clear this mess up. So jump rings, you twist them to open. It might be easier with 2 pairs of pliers. I don't appear to have 2 pairs of pliers handy, so I'm going to use my precision cutters and try not to cut it. There we are. So you twist to open them. Put it through. And there you go. And of course you can add whatever other embellishments you want. If you want little tassels or gems or anything else that you fancy putting on there. Just make sure it's straightened up. And there we go. We have our letter keyring. And the sun's come out so I can show you the sparkle. Just turn the camera a bit. Look at the sparkle. Isn't that nice? And that's as simple as it is. So I'm just going to finish off all the others. I'll do exactly the same with them all. But in the meantime, before I do that, I'll just get some photos so that we can finish this video off. I hope this was helpful. Would you let me know what else you'd like me to do? Sort of a crazy loads of ideas in one beginner's type video of? Because I did find that last time I did a video like this, that it went down very, very well. So if there's a topic you'd like me to do, like a whole series of so many ideas in one video again, all beginner friendly, then by all means shout up. Just drop a note in the comments below and I'll see what I can do for you, because I do quite enjoy doing these. I like to try and make my videos useful. If you like this video, by the way, do click the subscribe, because that will then let you know when I've got anything else that might be helpful to you coming out as well. And thank you so much for watching all the way through. Just hope it was useful for you. Let me know what you think. Thanks, everyone. Bye.